Hey friends, welcome to the Taste Toast Travel Podcast. We're your hosts and resident foodies, Epicureans, and lovers of all things travel and exploration.
I'm John, and I'm a certified somm and a certified specialist of wine, and I've worked in the wine and hospitality industry for over 10 years.
I'm Tara, and I've worked in the wine industry for over 7 years, both in hospitality and digital marketing.
When my wife and I first met, we bonded over our love of eating, drinking, and traveling the world. That passion has only grown over time. Now we want to share this passion with you from an insider perspective.
On this podcast, you can expect a wide range of topics on all things food, travel, and beverage. This includes non-alcoholic drinks too, because we don't discriminate here. That means we'll dig into things like where to go, where to stay, and what to eat or drink along the way. We'll be serving tea on hot topics and big news, dig into the cultural significance and impacts that food, drink, and travel have on our lives, and we'll even bring on guests to join us who are just as excited, passionate, and knowledgeable about tasting, toasting, and traveling as we are. And because we're not your ordinary foodie and travel-focused podcast, you can definitely expect some pop culture topics here too.
We're only scratching the surface here, and we have a lot more in store that we can't wait to share with you all. Grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and enjoy the journey with us. Cheers.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Taste Toast Travel Podcast. I'm Tara.
And I am John.
These intros are getting ridiculous. Oh my god. Anyway, today I'm very excited because I have some hot goss.
Oh, some goss.
I have some tea.
Tea is just brown water.
It's okay, that's for another episode. Wait, wasn't that from a movie?
Yeah, it's a show.
I can't remember No, that was from, hold on, the soccer show. Ted Lasso.
Oh, you got there. Good for you. Yeah.
That wouldn't have normally taken me longer. Okay, so anyway, yes, I have some tea. So if you have listened to our intro, you might remember that I mentioned that on occasion, we might talk about some interesting things or sort of juicy things going on in the food, beverage, travel industries because we work in that industry more or less. And
I do.
Not more or less. I do too. And we work specifically in the wine industry, as you guys probably know, but that I think is just such a part of this whole taste toast travel culture that we want to focus on. And today we have a wine related one, which if you saw the title of this episode, you probably had a little teaser of it. Yeah, you don't even know, do you? Basically, what we're going to get into today is more or less about what is in your wine. What are you actually really drinking beyond just fermented grapes, right? But there's more to this story. And it's funny because I think we had talked about doing this episode and like really digging into like what is wine, what's in wine. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. But this situation that has come up in the news recently really, I think, was kind of like a perfect example of this and shed a lot of light on this and how we sort of have a little ways to go as far as really educating consumers on what really is in your wine. And there was some drama in the wine industry recently. Mm-hmm. So wanted to touch on that because I think this is interesting, but I think it really opens up a bigger conversation as to seriously what is in wine. What are we really consuming? Well, spoiler alert, the amount of sugar, any additives, things like that. And it's a hot topic in the wine industry right now. I mean, I don't know so much about where you work, but where I work, it is very important. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of things going on with overall like health and wellness when it comes to, I mean, here's the thing. Wine's alcohol, right? No one ever should. A responsible wine company should never say it's healthy, right? But
there are healthy aspects.
There are certainly, like antioxidants, whatever, that we can have that conversation in a little bit. But I think there is a lot about not even so much wellness, but transparency in what people are putting into their wine.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, yeah.
Hold that thought. We're going to get there. Let me tell this juicy little story. Okay. So I am paraphrasing, but if you guys are curious to learn more about this, I will link my resource here in the show notes. So this is from a San Francisco Chronicle article. I actually heard about this situation through work, through the through the grapevine.
Ha,
You
wine.
see what I did there? And
You're funny.
I know, I'm hilarious.
Wine
So,
jokes.
but I wanted to actually attempt to report on this in a responsible way. So, this is ultimately all from this article. You can totally Google this, but this is the gist of what's going on. You ready?
Sweet, hit me.
Okay. So basically, um, for those who don't know Adam Lee, he is a Sonoma County winemaker. He created, well, he's kind of responsible for several things from what I was researching, but Dial Tone and Busy Signal Pinot Noirs are two of them, and Dial Tone specifically is sort of a key focus in this story. Both of those are Pinot Noirs, by the way. They're out of Santa Barbara County. And he also co-founded a single vineyard Pinot brand called Siduri, which is one I'm very familiar with. I think it's like you've probably heard of Siduri
Quite
too.
famous, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, beautiful Pinot Noirs. So basically, what has happened is there is an I'm going to say an ad going, but for those of you who are familiar with, you go to a grocery store and occasionally you might see a wine brand or even just like a spirits brand or liquor or whatever have, let's
Yeah, it's
say it's sort of
displayed.
like it's a display sort of,
It's like
right? So it might be
stacked
like a
boxes
cutout
displayed.
or
Yeah.
something like that, right? So that is ultimately what this case is dealing with. So Adam Lee is responsible, essentially, for creating a display ad like that you would see in a grocery store that has sparked a lot of debate and fury amongst some people. So here's what's going on. So basically, the idea for this ad came about when he went to Texas to meet some of his blood relatives. So blood relatives because he's actually adopted. So he was down in Texas. His family presented him with a bottle of Meiomi, little known brand from down the way.
I've heard
For
of them, I
you, if
think.
you are listening to this podcast, you have probably heard of Meiomi at some point. So anyway, they gave him a bottle of Meiomi to drink, and he was, quote, surprised at how sweet it was. So back home in California, he decided to conduct a little experiment. In January, and I need to make sure I'm fact checking this right, but this all happened this year. So this is currently 2024 that we're recording this. Um, so I believe in January of this year, he bought a bottle of the 2021 Meiomi and a bottle of his 2022 Dial Tone Pinot Noir to his local lab for testing. In his report, which the San Francisco Chronicle reviewed, it stated that the bottle of Meiomi had 19.4 grams per liter of residual sugar compared to 0.6 in Dial Tone. That's a huge difference.
God, yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
much sugar.
Okay, we're going to get into that. Hang with me. So, in case you are curious what this display ad is looking like and what it reads and why it is sparking some controversy is it reads, there is less sugar in 32 bottles of Dial Tone Pinot Noir than in just one bottle of Meiomi Pinot Noir. And in this article, by the way, you can, if click the link in the show notes, you can see exactly what this display looks like. Essentially, it's like I think it's literally 32 bottles of Dial Tone or something like that, or maybe it's the inverse actually. Wait, hold on, I have it. It's
No, it's like stacked up dial tone.
no, yeah, exactly. So there's 32 bottles of Dial Tone and then like one bottle of Meiomi, and yeah, I mean it's quite a statement. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So
So he got in trouble, yeah.
he's getting in some trouble. Yes. So Meiomi's parent company, Constellation Brands, so Constellation owns Meiomi, caught wind of this display, and Lee, not surprisingly, received a very sternly worded letter from their lawyers. Not a shocker. So this letter, again, which the San Francisco Chronicle reviewed, demanded that Lee provide evidence to support his claims and suggested his ad may violate a federal law prohibiting false advertising. Now it's interesting because he did these labs, these tests in a legitimate lab, so it seems. So like, is it false advertising? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Hang with me, I'm almost done. So basically, so the letter stated Constellation welcomes competition in the marketplace so long as such competition is fair and does not mislead consumers. This is actually really funny. So, to quote Lee, oh shit, was my first reaction, he's saying, of this letter. But he also admitted he was, quote, poking the bear a little bit, which, like, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, I mean,
Yeah.
don't mess
I
with
mean, I get it.
Constellation or any of these bigger brands. Like, of course, they're gonna, they're gonna respond. When he received the letter from Constellation, he conducted a second analysis testing the subsequent vintage of each wine, so the 2022 Meiomi and the 2023 Dial Tone. The sugar levels were lower for both, 18.3 grams per liter for Meiomi and zero point 0.4 for Dial Tone. But Lee believes this actually strengthens his marketing
Sure.
proposition, basically. Because now the math enables him to claim that there's less RS, residual sugar, in 45 bottles of Dial Tone than in a single bottle of Meiomi. So that's up from 32.
Yeah.
So according to the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, Meiomi's most recent release, the 2023 Pinot Noir, contains 21 grams of sugar per liter.
Oof. That's so much.
I have so many thoughts and feelings. So basically, after consulting his lawyer, Lee sent Constellation. This is so good, you guys. This is okay. Hold on to your hats. Lee sent Constellation a response with the recent lab results, but didn't back off his brazen approach. I kind of love this guy. He's like kind of my spirit animal. He wrote, he's so funny. He wrote, I think you're saying that I should keep making truthful statements about Meiomi. Thanks for that. Like most people these days, I care about how much sugar I ingest. He concluded with an offer to sell Constellation a couple of bottles of Dial Tone so the company can conduct their own test. Quote, just send me the credit card information.
That's funny.
The letter quipped. So good. He said he's not too worried about a potential lawsuit, stating, man, I can't talk today. Yeah, I'm all over the place. It's been a long day, okay? Quote, the numbers are what the numbers are. Plus, he said his insurance would cover any advertising-related litigation. Cool. Travis Johnson, in the grocery store this happened to be in, which was Ranch Mart. I guess Ranch Mart, I believe it is. He is the general manager who created the display, was quoted saying, it's a great conversation starter and a great way to convert people to drink things based on what they like, not just based on what a great marketing budget tells them to. Very true. I would agree with that. So basically, Lee's ad dares to make a contentious wine industry secret public knowledge. Wines that share the same shelf as the supermarket can have wildly varying levels of residual sugar, which refers to the amount of sugar left unfermented, and still all be classified as dry. So I'm bringing all this kind of dryness up for a reason, and then we can kind of get into it. He said, quote, I think that everyone needs wines to start out with, and a lot of people start out with sweeter wines. I don't have an issue with that. I do think it's a problem to have this level of sweetness in a wine classified as the same thing as the dry, traditional Pinot Noirs that most everyone else makes. Totally agree. Lee doesn't necessarily think ingredient labeling is the best solution, but suggested that retailers and restaurants could do better. They could better differentiate sweetness in the presentation of their inventory. So that's the situation. But I think, and so basically, essentially to piggyback off of what Lee is saying, or actually, I shouldn't even say Lee, this general manager from Ranch Mart, Travis Johnson, it is a good conversation starter. And I think it's presenting, just a lot of interesting conversation in this industry right now of just like, just that transparency, the health component, the taste component, the ethics behind it, and what people are actually putting in their wines. So I don't know. I guess I'll kick it over to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, when you told me this story at first, I was not at all surprised. And I was actually surprised that something like this hadn't happened already.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well,
Um,
it could have, to be honest. I don't, unless we're missing
mm,
something. Yeah. I don't know.
so I'm not at all surprised by the amount of sugar in the wine that was found.
Yeah.
Um, that just does not surprise me. I mean, I bet you if you take the top five most sold by volume wines in the United States, they're all going to have
Quite high.
just as much sugar in them,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, most people like most people like Americans like sweet things.
Hmm.
Sugar in America is in everything in America. It's like there's so much sugar, and it's like you have your soda, you have sweet tea, you have lemonade, you have all
Yeah.
these like things that are full of sugar. So when people drink wine, they're used to that kind of level,
Hmm.
and when they taste it, they're like, "Oh, that's great. It's I'm familiar with this."
Yeah.
And when you drink like a regular a different bottle of wine that has no residual sugar in it, you're like, "Holy, this is so bitter and
Yeah.
like so dry." So
It's
like
like black coffee. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
actually, really quick, coffee is another perfect example. I mean, think
yeah,
about how Americans
yeah,
take their coffee.
yeah.
I mean, you and I don't do that, but
Americans don't drink coffee; they drink sugar with a smidge of coffee in
yeah,
it.
I
Like
mean, not to
that's
say
what it
not
is.
it,
Like,
not all Americans here, guys. We know there's some, but
yeah, I
generally
mean, you
speaking,
go to Starbucks and
people are getting some crazy fucking
literally 10 out
drinks
of
that
10
are
people there are getting something with tons of sugar in it. Like
yeah,
I go to Starbucks and I go, I'll just have
yeah.
I'll have a shot of espresso. And they're
I'm like, what
like, what?
the fuck? What
Do
a
you want it
weirdo.
over ice?
Yeah, they
No,
literally ask him that almost every time. It's so
no, I don't
funny.
want it on ice. Just give me a shot of espresso.
Yeah,
Jesus,
you're funny.
weirdos.
Anyway.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, wine, popular wine has sugar in it. I imagine you can add you have sugar in the wine to one, make it more palatable for a larger number of people, but also to kind of mask flaws in the wine since it's everything is kind of low quality in the wine essentially. So
Mhm.
they're like, let's just have a bunch of sugar and vanilla and call it a day.
I'm going to interrupt you super quick. So this is interesting, and then I can get your thoughts on this. So basically, Lee was saying that he does not use artificial additives like oak chips, a cheaper alternative to oak barrels to impart an oaky flavor,
Mm-hmm.
or grape juice concentrate like Mega Purple.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be touching on that in another episode, so more to come. Unless you want to like quickly touch on what Mega Purple is, but I could just say it's typically used to intensify the wine's like color, and it can increase also the sugar content even more.
So you said it was what 20 grams per liter is what he found in like the newest vintage, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
I
it
think he said 20,
was
20,
21, and the
20. Okay.
2023 Pinot contains 21 grams of sugar per liter,
Okay. So
according to Lee.
my numbers might be off a little bit, but I mean, I'm almost positive for Brut champagne to
Hmm.
call it Brut. And Brut's pretty dry, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone's like Brut, it's dry. You can have up to 12 grams per liter of sugar in Brut champagne to call it Brut.
Okay.
So I think it's between 7 and 12. I can't remember exactly right. It's been a while. But you can have actually quite a bit of residual sugar in your wine
Yeah.
to call it, dry. And then he's claiming that they have 21 grams per liter. Like that is a lot of sugar. That's so much
That's
sugar.
almost twice that.
Yeah, that's a
That's
lot of sugar. It's
insane.
so
And
much
this is, of
sugar.
course, all I mean, and saying this episode, obviously we want to be as factual as possible. I have personally not heard if Constellation has done their own testing or,
But I
anything
mean,
like that. I mean,
I think that
that's
Constellation
crazy.
isn't, they're not upset that he's falsely advertising. They're just upset that he
He's getting
advertised in
he's
general.
well, he's
They don't want people to know that.
no, no, they don't.
Why would you want that? Yeah, people think they're drinking wine, but when they're in reality, they're drinking
They're just it's
Kool-Aid.
crazy
They're
sugar,
drinking
and so
grape Kool-Aid.
apparently, allegedly,
If it's all true and that's what it is, it's dang. I mean, it's like grape Kool-Aid. Yeah, like it's like
yeah, people need to know that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I mean that's really what like sparks this conversation, right? Of like, and it's interesting too because we're definitely in a time. I think like Gen Z is having a lot to do with this, even maybe younger millennials, like, and just I don't know, people getting older care more about their health. They want to know what's in the stuff they're consuming. We're just becoming a slightly more health conscious culture, I
Well, I
think,
mean, we're becoming more health
generally.
conscious, but like you can't really trust people in the United States and what they're making. Like you can't there's not like a
Sure.
there's not like the ethics involved with it aren't what they are in other places.
That's the problem right there.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure everyone doesn't they would prefer not to be transparent with what's in their product because
Yeah.
then they have to be more ethical and they
Yeah.
have to and so it's like I would much rather make a wine that's sweet and sells by the millions and millions of
And
cases.
own the fact that it's on the sweeter side or something. Like, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
like I would much. I mean, if I'm they're just like, yeah, we're selling tons of this wine. Literally, one of the largest brand sales in wine history when Constellation bought the brand Meiomi,
Yeah.
and it's like they're just like printing money selling that wine, and it's like we don't want anyone to know that this wine is super super sweet
Yeah.
because then
It's shady.
you
Yeah.
could lose some of your
Well,
business.
I mean, Meiomi is like, and I do not have an official number on this at all. So this is like complete like hearsay
Mm.
what I'm about to say. But I mean, it's one of the most popular. I feel like I can confidently say it's one of the most popular, if not the most popular Pinot in the United States. I'm fairly
It's
certain.
gotta be up
I
there,
mean,
yeah.
I could probably Google that. But anyway, it's just yeah. So yeah, they don't. If I were Constellation, I wouldn't want someone messing with that and potentially, yeah. I mean, calling out something that could deter people from wanting to buy it. I can see why they're
Yeah,
pissed.
I wouldn't wanna tell people that my product is
The false advertising claim is sort of interesting. I mean,
they
we
might
could
have
get into
thought, like, they didn't know the extent of the testing he's done or something like that, or who knows
yeah,
what they could come back with, like, "Well, was it one specific sugar? Was it this sugar?" Like, all kinds
sure.
of weird stuff that I'm
So
sure
maybe
that they
that's
could
why
get
they're
into, but, like, I mean,
yeah.
it I am not surprised at all. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I coulda told you that." Without ever even looking at the numbers, I could be like, "Oh, yeah, it's a sweet wine."
So see, that's the thing too. It's like, okay, so for us, for example, we work in the wine industry. You're especially very familiar with what goes into wine, all of that. The and this is no shade to general Americans, but anyone who doesn't work in the wine industry who has no idea, how are they supposed to know?
No,
I mean,
yeah, I get it.
that's the shitty part.
Yeah,
Is
I
like
get it.
people are just, and that's what's really interesting, and I think is the whole point of this drama is that it's I mean,
That's I think
marketing
yeah,
is
that is the problem
a
with
big
well, I
part of it.
mean, that's marketing, it's the price point. I don't know how much Meiomi sells for. I bet you it's 19.99.
Oh, I have
Maybe
some
less,
numbers.
actually.
Yeah, I think
Look
I
it up.
this yeah, this oh wow. Okay, yeah, I'm just checking the article, which is Constellation which acquired Meiomi from founder Joe Wagner in 2015 for 315
Yeah,
million, and which is the fourth largest wine producer in the country. Anyway,
makes
thought
sense.
I'd call that out because that's a fun fact. Um,
Yeah, I was like,
okay, well, oh yeah, here we go. So at Ranch Mart specifically, Meiomi cost $24 and Dial Tone 36.
mhm.
Yeah. But okay, so what are your thoughts then on I mean the sugar thing is one part of it. What about other additives?
Well,
Um
the thing with, I mean, Meiomi, like, they have a year. Does it have a year on the bottle? I haven't even. I don't believe I've ever held a bottle of it, but like,
just can't be rough.
I don't know. Do they have a year on their label? Like this is the 2021
I'm sure they
Meiomi?
do. I mean,
Because the funny thing is, like Meiomi is basically made to taste the same every year. It doesn't matter if it's a 20, a 21, a 22. Like they make it to
yes.
taste the same. It's just like
Yeah.
because we live in like in a homogenized world now, and so like you go to Japan and get a Big Mac, it's gonna taste the same as a Big Mac you got in Amsterdam, as same as you got it in New Zealand. Like that's people buy wine because they know they like that one
Mhm.
and they want that one every time because
Mhm.
they know they like it.
Yeah.
they don't want to gamble their $24 on something they've never had before.
Right.
So they're like, I know that I get a great amount of pleasure out of this bottle for $24.
Little
So I
safety.
want that one. And so the producer of Meiomi or of any of these wines is making those wines taste exactly the same every time. Same color, same like alcohol content.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, they're blending vintages, they're, putting probably coloring agents in the wine, all kinds of stuff like
Now, we
that.
should probably mention this is we know these are known practices. I think we need to
This is speculation.
cover our
Yeah,
asses here and say
I'm not
we
saying this
don't
is
know.
what they do. I wouldn't be
This is
surprised
what
if that's
some
what they do.
brands can and will do. So no one come after us for this, please. That is speculative. We're not at all saying that that's what Meiomi does or anything of the sort.
Just the wines in the market that are mass produced that people are very familiar with.
That does often happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many ways you can make a wine taste the same
Mm-hmm.
year after year after year.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's the point too, is like I would think and hope that like each that's the beauty I think of each vintage and each differing year is it does bring out something beautiful and different. And I've totally had wines where one year was freaking stellar for whatever the reasons were, the uh, weather that year, whatever went into that, and then had other vintages and they weren't the same. But it like almost made me appreciate that vintage that I loved that much more in some ways. But I get a lot of I don't know that a lot of America like operates that way, or if
The
they're just
only
like they want that
wine that should
consistency. Yeah.
taste the same year after year is non-vintage champagne. Should always just taste the same.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You get a non-vintage champagne from this place, should taste the same
Why is that?
because that's what it's supposed to be.
Oh,
It's just non-vintage, and
right.
then you use the vintage champagne to uh, show off that year.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the difference between non-vintage and vintage. You have
Interesting.
the non-vintage, and on bad years you don't make vintage wine, but on good
Right.
years
Right.
you make both. You sell your vintage wine. It's like
Mhm.
this is gonna taste. Every bottle you get should taste the same.
Yeah.
It's very very kind of similar, and then you have the non. Then you have the vintage champagne to be like this is the best of this year, and this is what we want to showcase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the only wine I feel should taste the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple other wines in the world like that where they blend a certain thing, but like for just for kind of a
That's helpful context.
meh.
I didn't know that. What I mean, is there anything you can talk about? Because I wanted to touch on like labeling, and so I think it's interesting because labeling is like a whole nother discussion that I wanted to touch on today. So, with regards to labeling, it's very interesting in the wine industry because they are not even you're not required to put ingredients on a label. It is not like
No
regulated
alcohol in the
like
United
food
States.
is,
Alcohol,
right?
you don't have to put ingredients on alcohol in the United States.
Yeah.
Which other countries you do?
Okay, so
You go to Germany and it's like this beer, and then you look on the ingredients on the back. It's like water, barley, hops.
yeah, can you talk about that? Yeah, so okay, so that's an example. Are there other countries where they do that with wine that you know of?
Yeah, yeah.
Or like what's the difference like Europe
Yeah, if
or
you go to France,
Asia
I
compared
mean,
to
if you
us?
if you go to I've been to like a supermarket in France,
Mhm.
and you get a bottle, or it might have been Germany. I think it was Germany, and you look on the
Somewhere there.
bottom back, and it has like the white box with the calories, and like it looks just like any other food product.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was. I
So
can't
that's
remember.
so interesting. Why this is a rhetorical question. I guess I should go look this up. But like why
Mine
does it
beer.
yeah,
I actually don't know
what's that
why.
about?
That's probably on the way. Like it's coming.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think
Truthfully,
there's
I'm
pushback.
shocked it's not
I think there's a
the case
lot
now.
of pushback and a lot of lobbying against it
Mm.
from massive brands
For
that don't
sure.
want to have to label
Yeah.
certain ingredients
Mhm. I.e. sugar.
or
Sugar content.
coloring agents or flavoring agents, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
you're
I'm
right.
sure there's a lot of lobbying against that from very, very powerful brands.
Yeah, that have a lot of skin in the game, so to
Yeah,
speak. Yeah.
but I don't know. That's just me
I'm
speculating, though.
not surprised. Yeah, there's I've only seen it locally with one brand called Copan. I think they are now, I believe, putting ingredients, and they're starting to do that. Yeah, and I mean, I think there are, for example, I mean, brands like Adam Lee's or whoever that are championing that and want that transparency and feel that that's um, fair and should be given. And I think, truthfully, I think they're proud to do that, or they're, would be willing to do that because they don't really have as much to hide. You know what I mean? They're doing
Mhm.
things kind of, I hate to say the right way, but like,
The only, I mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
we
It's
really don't.
interesting.
The only really the things you have to label in the United States, like as big as
Your
like alcohol,
alcohol content, yeah,
where it was
ABV,
made, alcohol,
right?
stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
very, very like broad things.
Uh-huh.
And even the alcohol is fudged. Like they give you a leeway. So like it could be say 14.5 on the label, but it could be 15.5 or whatever. Like there's
Yeah,
like such a big leeway with that. It's kind of ridiculous. Um, but
that's
yeah,
interesting.
the labeling laws, like you can put reserve on any bottle you want.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Any
I
bottle you want, you just throw
hate
reserve on it.
that in America. It's crazy
Yeah.
how misleading. Speaking of
There's
misleading
no
marketing, I
definition
mean,
legally for putting reserve on your bottle. You can make
it's
a
crazy.
reserve white Zinfandel reserve. Like you could do anything. You could make
Ugh,
a reserve Moscato. Like it
God.
doesn't matter. But I bet you most of the United States thinks that reserve means something.
Yeah.
But like it's it's not.
Mm. That's oh God, I've known that. I just every time we talk about it or I hear about it, it just frustrates me because I'm
Mm.
just like, it's just so misleading. So that's I don't know. So I think that's
A lot of
that's
wine brands don't. I mean, it's pretty, I would say,
I
understand.
feel like it's less now than it
Yeah,
used to be.
it's understood when you have a reserve on a bottle that's like, longer time aging, higher
Yeah, there's
quality
something
grapes, stuff like that, but it
maybe it's
doesn't
like single vineyard or comes from
there's
like a high I don't
it
know.
does not have to be. Could do put it
Yeah,
on anything.
that's such a
You
bummer.
can
But in Europe, that is not the case.
pick the
It is like
grapes. Yeah.
far
There's minimum aging requirements if you're going to
yeah.
call it reserve and stuff like
There's
that.
like actual guidelines and
Yeah.
like rules people have to
Some countries have reserve, some countries don't have reserve. France doesn't have reserve.
what's up with America, dude? I don't know. Like
Well, the
why
wine
do we
industry's
just go rogue?
well, the wine industry's still new here.
Yeah, I
They've been
know.
making wine in Europe for thousands of
Well,
years. We're
yeah,
like
but like
200 years in.
the
Not even
modern
because
laboling and all of those like laws and stuff.
prohibition. Remember that? That was a great experiment.
Yeah,
That
that was the
worked
whole
out.
thing. Oh, we're definitely gonna talk about that.
Worked
We
out
were
pretty
talking
good.
about that recently.
Mhm.
We have some fun episodes coming on that. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on too before we kind of slowly start wrapping up is the actually this probably warrants a whole episode maybe, but natural wine.
Yeah,
I know you have some thoughts and feelings on that. Natural wine, organic wine. I think just conversations like this
those are different, by the way.
yes, yeah. Oh, actually,
Very, very
I'll
different.
have you clarify that in a second. But basically, I think generally speaking in the wine industry, this mindset of being a little more health focused or being more transparent or consuming wines that, for example, don't have a ton of additives and sugar and things and stuff in that have inspired a lot of producers, winemakers, whatever, growers, um, to phase out of using herbicides or pesticides, herbicides, whatever, i.e., Roundup,
Pesticide, yeah.
stuff like that. Um, it is pushing the US government to consider different labeling requirements and things like that. Um, yeah, basically just moving away from using pesticides, herbicides, chemicals in vineyard management. What are your thoughts on organic and natural wine?
Um, so organics, there's two different things you can do. Like you can put on your bottle, um, made with organic grapes,
Okay,
which means that your wine was made with grapes that were farmed organically.
right.
Or you could have the organic wine. You could have both. It was made with organic grapes and it was organically made. Basically, and then you have natural wine, which is like its whole other thing. But like
Mhm.
organics is basically, yeah, like no pesticides, no fertilizers, um, you do like limit how much like sulfur you use when winemaking, stuff like that. It's just very, it's just cleaner made wine.
Yeah.
But there's certain things you do to a high quality, like very high quality wine. We're talking like the 1% of wine made in the world. Like there's certain things you have to do to the wine to guarantee or have a higher percentage guarantee that it's going to be a high quality, well made product.
Hmm.
When you're doing natural wine, you're just like, Jesus, take the wheel, basically. It's pretty much
Jesus, take the
Jesus, take the wheel. You like get your grapes,
Oh my God,
you
that's
smash them, you put
funny.
them in a container, and you're just like, all right,
Go, do your thing.
hope it's good.
Oh,
And you don't do anything to it. You don't do anything. And then the product after that, you could have some weird yeast strain that makes it taste all sour. You could have all kinds of stuff that goes on. Um, but
uh.
people, for whatever reason, are thinking that's like healthier. But
Well, I get it because so here's I think like the biggest thing today, and I feel like a lot of people that are going to be listening here are aware of wine, are perhaps even somewhat versed or even well versed on like how it's made and stuff, but like
natural
for
wine, like all wine is natural. But when someone says
y-
natural wine,
yes.
it's like a certain style basically that has become kind of, it's like a fad right now. And there's like natural wine bars
It's just a
everywhere.
little trendy. Yeah, we have one where we live. Yeah. I mean it's
Yeah, and it's like I don't necessarily like a lot of natural wines. They almost taste like sour beer to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's almost like its own specific category that I'm
Oh
not
no, it
like,
totally is. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
consider
like
it to
this
be
is
one.
it's like I don't know if I would classify it as like this is wine. I'm not sure what I would classify it as. More like a sour. I don't even know what the,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's just a very very different product,
Mhm.
and some people
And that's
really
fine.
love that.
That's yeah.
But
And that's the thing too, which I feel like we should say in this episode, like this is not a shade to Meiomi or any other like bigger brand, whatever. If that is your thing, go for it. Enjoy it. I mean, it's like they were saying, it's just like if you prefer the sweeter, if that's your thing, like go for it. So if you like that organic wine, if you like natural wine and that's your we will probably never really say on this pod like we have our preferences, but we'll never tell you not to drink something if you I mean
yeah,
it's totally subjective.
I don't care.
But just recognizing that that is what it is and yeah, just being discerning, knowing the differences. One other thing I was going to bring up that I'm also seeing a lot of recently that's kind of related. So right now, huge brand that's very, very popular is Aveline. So for those who don't know, do you know Aveline?
Some celebrity.
Cameron Diaz's
Uh,
wine. Yeah, which love Cameron Diaz. Like, let's be real. To be fully transparent, have not had her wine.
and
Um,
I probably will not have her
I was about
wine.
to say I'm curious to try it. Quite frankly. So here's what's interesting though. They have kind of been saying this is not like anything new, and they're not even the
Yeah,
first
is
people
there
to do it.
marketing material like, this wine is healthier than other
Well,
wines, or
it's like low key what they're saying without like maybe even so much saying it. They're
really?
basically like,
Because you can't say alcohol is healthy in
no, no,
marketing.
you absolutely cannot. What they're essentially saying is like, for example, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, right? This is not like their official marketing or anything like that. But like, let's say, for example, they're saying like, there are no additives. Ours has no added sugar. It's no this or for
They're
example,
just saying everything that everyone does.
like 100%. Like, let's just say, for example, 100% certified, sustainable, whatever their spiel is, right? They in doing that have sort of ended up conveying a message like we don't do that. So by like proxy or whatever, that means everyone else does.
Yeah,
That means everyone else does do additives and do all this that is
it's like
simply not true
such a marketing ploy.
at
Yeah,
all.
it's like that famous thing from Mad Men where they're
Yeah.
talking about cigarettes, and
Oh my god, yeah.
he's like, he says something
I
that
know I can't remember
something to
now.
the tune of like the marketing for their cigarettes are, you know, our cigarettes are toasted. And then the CEO of the cigarettes is like, everyone toasts their cigarettes. And he's
Mhm.
like, no, everyone else's cigarettes have cancer. Ours are toasted. So it's basically
I
like
love Don
doing
Draper.
one thing in this hand and doing
Yeah.
the other thing, like this hand, like it's the sleight of hand technique. So
Yeah.
everyone is like just the wool pulled over.
And they believe it.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like and that could be completely true, everything that they're
No
saying. I
offense if
mean,
you smoke.
hopefully
Go for it.
I would well, I'm not gonna encourage that, but anyway, I would hope
Looks cool.
that, of course okay, enough out of you. That everything that they're saying is right. Okay, sure, their wines maybe don't have those things. Great, good for them. But that doesn't mean that everyone else does. And it is actually such a bummer because I there are certain brands I love and I don't work with, and there are some brands that I love and I do work with that farm super sustainably. They're doing all the right things. They don't do additives, they don't do anything crazy. They are like as healthy as you could possibly get with wine. And they're up against brands and companies. And no, that's fine. That
The
they have kind of the sway to do that. So like no shade to them. But like it just is such a bummer because I see these
the
brands have to work so much harder to
the
like
bottom line for in the wine industry in the United States,
yeah.
to make money, you have to produce a product that sells in the market for $9 or less. That's the most popular price point of wine in the United
It was
States.
slightly higher, but yeah, you're probably
No,
right.
it's less than $10 essentially.
I would think 15, yeah.
Is the most popular price point.
Mhm.
So to be able to do that and make a wine like that,
That's mass produced. I mean, you could argue like it's
you're not starting with the highest quality everything. You just can't. The numbers don't work out. To make a wine that costs $10 at the supermarket, that means you're selling that wine wholesale to this distributor
mm,
for like $2 like a bottle. Like
yeah,
cuz then the distributor will put on their markup and then they'll sell it to the market wherever it's being sold. So it's like
right.
that bottle of wine is literally being produced for $1 to $2. And to be able to produce a wine for that low of a price point, you can't be putting out the highest quality product. And I think any producer
You'd be
that
hard
makes a wine
pressed
like
to
that
I
would
mean,
tell you, yes, this is not the highest quality that you can get. It is of the quality of $10
right.
in the United States.
Yeah.
And this is a inherently United States problem because
Mhm.
land is expensive, labor is expensive, everything's expensive. So like that's partly why wine skyrockets very quickly from $10 and
Yeah.
up. Whereas in other countries, you can get a $9 bottle, a €9 bottle, and it's amazing, great quality.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
But like here, you get what you pay for to a
Mhm.
certain point.
Yeah,
Once it gets above a certain number,
I agree with that.
it's buying the brand and all that. But like
Yeah.
$9, $10 bottle of wine, I mean, you're not getting the best quality of everything, which
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't
I
mean
don't think people are buying a $9 bottle of wine for the quality anyway.
you
It's
hope
tastes fine to them
not.
and it's cheap.
Yeah, and I
It's
mean, and
fine.
it doesn't mean that the company doesn't care what that they still do things ethically. I mean, I know brands out there that are bigger. They are names that you would recognize in a grocery store that do things as ethically and like as great as they possibly can for that price point. And they're not adding super crazy things and whatever. I'm not going to name drop, but I just,
There's
I there
two reasons why you would make wine in the in California, there's two reasons why you'd make wine. One is to make a really amazing wine, and the other is to make a lot of money.
Hmm,
Those two don't usually intersect
I hear you.
unless you're a brand that can do both because you're huge.
Right.
So you have your brands that make
Which
cheap wine,
we
and then
know
you
of.
have brands that make really good wine
Yeah,
as well. And so the cheap wine sells the fastest.
and it pays the bills.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Your $5, $6, $7 bottle of wine, you can sell 1,000 cases of $6 bottles of wine faster than you can sell one bottle of $1,000 wine.
Mhm,
Like it's just the way it is.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it presents just an interesting, I don't know, it's going to be just be very interesting to see where the future of wine goes in the US, and just like from a lot of perspectives. I mean, I'm seeing, at least I think, more and more in Napa and Sonoma, people caring about the way that things are being farmed, um the additives or lack thereof, the transparency of what is going into it, whether or not that leads to labeling being required in some capacity. I'd be shocked if that wasn't the case
Yeah.
later on. And especially now, I think it's also interesting. I was just going to touch on this, like think about like allergies or sensitivities or things like that. I mean, like it feels like more people than ever are like sensitive to like gluten and things like that. In fact, actually, there's a brand I've worked with that, and actually, I think probably this is complete hearsay, but like I feel like a lot of brands probably have to either tread carefully or actually cannot say that their wines are totally gluten free, or if they are, they might not be considering this, or this, they need to watch themselves legally, because even if the wine that you are consuming itself is gluten free, I've heard of a situation where there was like something in the making of the barrel that the wine is aged in, and it's like something in like the glue, or there's like something about the barrel that the wine is aged in that's not gluten free.
Huh.
So because of that, you cannot actually say it's gluten free.
Hmm.
I always thought that was interesting. But anyway, I call that out to say, again, those people that maybe want to drink, but want to be more so health conscious about it, understanding that alcohol is alcohol. I mean, it's kind of basically poison for your body. I
Oh, it's
mean,
fine.
let's just call a spade here. Um, but yeah, with allergies, with sensitivities, with people claiming that the sulfites are what they're allergic to and things like that. Again, we're having episodes coming on wine myths, misconceptions, things like that are often talked about and are not totally accurate. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just sparking a lot of conversation, and I do feel like there is a movement sort of in this industry where consumers are driving that, and brands and whoever know that people care about those things. This situation, I think, is a very good example. I don't think Constellation would be as mad as they are.
I don't think it's gonna hurt their sales in the
Oh,
slightest.
absolutely not. No. Well, that's the thing. I think, again, like with
People are gonna be like,
Americans,
"Oh, I like sweet wine. I'm gonna go try that now."
yeah, I know. Yeah, we're probably like helping. Well, maybe not that, but they're people are gonna like what they like. I mean, it's just you brought up cigarettes earlier. I mean, back in the day, like, do you think that that kind of marketing stopped people from smoking?
Yeah, it
Did
did.
did Betty
I bet
did
it
Betty Draper
originally.
stop smoking? No, she did not.
Originally, I think it helped. Like, yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
really?
it's for
Maybe a
some.
little
I
bit,
mean,
but
yeah,
ultimately, no, I don't think it's gonna hurt their sales.
yeah. No, I mean,
I think maybe it's just a wake up call for, and could it deter some people? Absolutely. Maybe some people be like, "Oh, Jesus Christ! Like I didn't know that." Um, but
at the end of the day, the wine is a certain style. Like, it's a
yeah,
style. Like,
so you're gonna like what you're gonna like. I mean, you can't listen. You can't like force yourself to like black coffee if you just think it's the most bitter, disgusting thing you've ever tasted. You're not gonna drink it. So if you're aware of,
it's just
for example, the sugar in your wine or whatever other additives might be in there, you do you. I mean, have it and enjoy it, I guess.
yeah. I don't
I
whatever.
personally wouldn't, but that's just me. Um yeah. So I don't know. I mean, any closing thoughts on just like how people consuming wine in whatever capacity, restaurants, at home, whatever, can educate themselves?
Like,
Just on what they're drinking, questions to ask. I mean, things to look for on a label. You've kind of touched on that. I think it's hard. It's almost kind of a trick question, to be honest. I think I think that's what's tough. The US, like
I
it
mean,
doesn't make it easy because it's not as transparent as it should
I
be.
guess yeah.
I don't know. Just making informed choices when you're
You
buying
have
wine, basically.
infinite access to the internet, so use that. If you're looking at wine, Google a
Mm,
wine. Look it up when you get wherever you're going.
yeah.
At the store, you're like, oh, this looks good. Google it. Look it up. See if you can find any text sheets on it, like that kind of stuff. And then
Mhm.
It can tell
Yeah,
you.
I always think of like, is Vivino one, that's like an app you can have on your phone. I don't know. I'm just thinking of like stuff that I
Kinda.
don't know that
It's
Vivino would
more
have
of like
anything in there.
a
But anyway.
thing where people rate wines that they've
Oh
tried.
yeah, I guess that's true. That's not really. Anyway. Yeah, I guess just being diligent and also just like if you do come across a brand or a company or whatever that's really committed to sustainably farmed and crafted wines and things like that. I mean, supporting those,
Yeah,
like, because there are wineries and wine brands, both big and little mom and pop places that are committed to being transparent and sharing that with people.
yeah,
And there's so many out there. So it's again, I'm gonna say this for like the umpteenth time, but like it's not that you need to stop drinking the big guys if
right.
you like them. It's just being I think it's just the awareness piece is kind of what sparked this
Yeah,
conversation that I'm especially passionate about. And I'm just like, if you know and
but
you can
yeah,
just be informed and you are making an informed decision on what you're consuming, then great. But I definitely think it's the fair thing for wine brands to do is to put that out there and not be shady about it.
yeah. I mean, not gonna do that until they're forced to.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's where I'll leave this too. I mean, as consumers, like with anything, I mean, this is like you could even make this argument for like food, fashion. I mean, any textile, anything out there. It's just like advocating for better laws around this stuff. I mean, caring enough to talk about it. I'm seeing a lot on like, and that's another kind of funny thing that like of why I brought this up in this particular case and stuff like that because this was on like TikTok. I mean, there was like conversations about this, and amongst like people on the younger side too. So I keep bringing up like Gen Z, millennials, whatever, because I feel like our generations are talking about it the most, and I think wineries and wine brands they do need to be careful because now more than ever those ages, those people in those generations will care enough to not buy if
Yeah,
they are not aligned with a company's like
sure,
ethos around how things are produced, both in what they're consuming, but also how it affects the planet
sure.
now more than ever. Very, very important.
Yeah,
So I think there's something to be said about that.
yeah,
Brian's got to pay attention. Yeah.
yeah. We'll see how it all goes.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us in this juicy little conversation. If you found it helpful or liked what you heard, let us know. Comment from wherever you're listening from, DM us, email us. We love hearing from you guys. And we will see y'all next week.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us and tuning into the Taste Toast Travel Podcast. We really appreciate you being here and hope you're enjoying these honest conversations about all things sipping, savoring, and seeing the world. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, we would truly appreciate a rating or a review on whatever platform you're tuning in on so fellow foodies, Epicureans, and travel enthusiasts can enjoy this content too. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a follow at Taste Toast Travel. We'll see you in the next episode.